looked round at this bike that said first woman and like asked the guy and sort of said, am I actually in first? And he was like, yes, come on, go. And I was like, okay, we've still got 16k to go here. We're so lucky at the moment that there's so many inspirational women. And there's just something really exciting about being like, I don't know what I'm about to do, but you know, I'm excited to see how much I can push myself. Hi, I'm Dooley. I'm the current British Aquathlon champion, and I recently won Barcelona half Ironman, and then I'm also a paediatric physio in my kind of day job.
I think a good place to start, Chloe, is the balancing act, because I imagine it's quite a balancing act having your day job and also obviously training super hard for the accomplishment and accolades you've just mentioned, which we'll get into. How do you go about balancing everything?
With difficulty, it's definitely how I'd describe it. I feel like this is a conversation that I have with a lot of people. They're always like, wow, I can't believe that you have a full-time job and, you know, kind of are competing in sport at a relatively high level. But, you know, I think for me, like I've always been a really kind of driven and motivated person. So kind of I've always wanted to do really well in sport, but also really wanted to kind of chase my sort of career path and what I enjoy kind of, you know, in my physio sort of physio role there. But yeah, in terms of balancing it, I just have to be super organised. I love making lists. Anyone who knows me knows that I've always got a list of, okay, what do I need to tick off for the day? And I think just about kind of making the right choices, you know, so there's a lot of times where I might say, you know, say no to a social event because I know actually, okay, I've done a full week in work and, you know, I've been up at 6 a.m. to get in the pool and I've not got back and had dinner until like 8-9 o'clock in the evening. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of sacrifices that come with that.
You mentioned kind of saying no to things there. Do you ever feel like you're missing out?
Not so much. I mean, yeah, I'm definitely not. I'm someone who, for me, I enjoy the hard training and that is my kind of sort of social side. So I don't feel like I miss out as such, but there's definitely times where I'm kind of, you know, conscious that maybe family, friends or whatever maybe think that you're in this sort of bubble of work training. And yeah, definitely kind of, you know, sort of going out on social things. I think when I'm in a bigger training block for something, then it's really, you know, nice when you finish that training block, you've ticked off that goal, to be able to have that time. I think it makes you appreciate them a little bit more when you've maybe had to, you know, kind of miss out on some of those.
Where did this all start then? Because obviously you're in multidiscipline sport now, but was it a single sport that led to what is happening now, or what was kind of the athletic journey up to this point, I guess?
So I was a swimmer when I was kind of really young. That was my sort of hobby that I did. So I swam until I was about 13, 14. And then just got to a point with it, like I think so many people do in swimming, because it's such a tough, you know, you're in the pool at like 5:30, going to school, you know, when actually a lot of your friends at that age are not doing that, for, you know, to see those really marginal kind of, you know, improvements, you know, you're talking like points of a second, and I just got to a point with it where I kind of wasn't improving, I wasn't enjoying it, so I kind of, you know, stepped back from swimming at about 13, 14. Had a couple of years where I was sort of just taking over, you know, from quite an active family, so would maybe do a bit of running, a bit of swimming, but nothing kind of too competitive. And then, yeah, both my parents were getting back into running, so I was like, hey, I'll give this a go. So then, yeah, probably towards sort of college age and into the start of university, took my running a bit more seriously, you know, was kind of chasing some road PBs, cross country. So was really into my running, and then lockdown obviously hit 2020, and I had all of this time, so I was running probably a bit too much mileage, picked up quite a few different little injuries, and then sort of that was when I got back into swimming, and then was like, hey, do you know what? I'm going to get myself a bike. I think I just got a new job as well, kind of post lockdown. So it was like, right, I'm going to bike commute to work. I'd got back into the swimming and then kind of was like, hey, let's enter a triathlon. So that's kind of how, and that would have been August 2021 when I did my first triathlon, which was the Welsh Olympic Distance Championships. And I hadn't quite realised that when I'd entered it, I'd just sort of gone, that's 45 minutes down the road from me. I was in Cardiff at the time. So yeah, and then 4 weeks before that, I got knocked off my bike by a car, hurt my elbow, hurt my hip. So that kind of put a bit of a sort of a pause on those kind of final few weeks of prep, but made it to the start line pretty much in one piece, and actually ended up winning that race, which was a really crazy experience. My first triathlon on a road bike that was definitely too big for me, and I didn't even have clip-on bike shoes. So looking back at those photos and going, that was literally 2 and a bit years ago to now. So it's been quite a journey, I would say. But yeah, I think I'm now kind of well into the swim, bike, and run sort of family, and I don't think I'll be kind of going or moving away from there anytime soon. I really enjoy it.
What were the comparisons between swimming from a young age and running and cycling? Were there kind of comparisons that you could draw between the training?
Oh, definitely. I think, when you're sort of an endurance-based athlete, you're always kind of in training and racing, learning how can you sort of push your body sort of physically to that next level. So, you always carry some of that fitness through. And I think that kind of sort of having that mental strength, when it's hurting or it's getting tough, to be able to push through, and that's kind of transferable across all three. And I think as well, being a swimmer as a young age, you have to spend a lot of time working on your technique and your stroke, and that's the same in cycling and running. Yes, from the outside you can look at it and go, okay, I just need to spend more time in the pool, do more bike miles, or run longer. But actually, there's a lot of that kind of technical element as well. And I think being able to have that attention to detail on all three is something that you can sort of transfer over.
You obviously love racing. I think it's quite obvious by all the numbers behind you on the wall. What is it about standing on a start line that you love so much? And is that something you felt throughout your career, or is that something that you kind of, I guess, eased into, if you will?
Yeah, definitely. I think if I was to go back and speak to my parents, I was an absolute nightmare when I started swimming. I used to stand in the changing rooms in tears because I would get myself so nervous. I'd get myself to the point where I was nearly being sick. There was a lot of swim galas where my parents would take me that have paid for me to race, and I wouldn't do any of the races. But I did manage to kind of get over that, because it was sort of I'm putting in all of this effort in training, which is great, but actually it's all of those hours in training, you put them in so that you can have that success on race day. And yeah, I guess just as I got older and a bit more mature and experienced, I kind of managed to find ways to work through that anxiety. And now, yeah, I love that feeling on a start line where you're able to take a few breaths, you sort of, have a real quick reflection on, whatever that training period has been like to get you there, and you're just kind of looking ahead at, the swim buoy in front of you, or, the stretch of road you're about to run down. And there's just something really exciting about being like, I don't know what I'm about to do, but, I'm excited to see how much I can push myself. And yeah, there's definitely been, for me, I have found managing my kind of own anxiety about pressures over how I want to perform or how I want to race. Sometimes that's got the better of me, and I've maybe not enjoyed race starts as much as I kind of, want to, or that actually that anxiety has held me back a little bit. But I think that I'm slowly learning sort of how I can manage that, and I'm really lucky that I've got a super supportive training team and coach at the moment that are helping me to just sort of really kind of enjoy the moment, rather than thinking about what if this happens, or what if I fail at this goal. And I'm getting a lot better at just going, okay, I just do my best, I enjoy the moment, and actually that seems, as the back end of this season has shown, to kind of work really well for me. So
in terms of enjoying the moment, and like you say, we'll get onto the back end of this season. You're now in these, bigger races, bigger start lines, bigger, deeper fields. How do you go about managing that kind of nervous energy, that anxiety that a lot of people feel on the start line?
I almost think it's a little bit easier for me as I step up a bit more, because actually having started 2.5, not having swum in, you know, 8, 9 years and never having ridden a road bike, there was never that expectation. I was kind of like, well, I've got nothing to lose here. I just go out, have fun. And then obviously you start to get some good results and you go back to those races, and then there's that expectation that you're going to be up at the front. So that's obviously then kind of you carrying that sort of external pressure as well as the internal pressure. And then as you step up again, you're in a completely new sort of race environment, and you're like, well, I've never raced at this level. I've never raced against girls that are this talented. So I just have to go out here, do my best, and then come away and go, okay, what do I need to change to be higher up or to do better next time? And yeah, I don't know, for me, almost actually when you're in those bigger fields and there's more people, you're kind of like, well, I can only focus on my race. I can't control what other people are doing. And then I'm just going to, like I say, do my race plan and see what happens.
Do you ever feel, because I know I've talked to people in the past, that when they step up, to a higher level and then to a higher level and then to a higher level, they kind of looking around themselves in the, before you get into the water or when you're on a start line and think, oh my goodness, like I'm around all these people that, I've looked at for a while. These are talented athletes. Do you ever feel that imposter syndrome setting in?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think this year was kind of my first year having a go. British Triathlon do something called the Super Series, which is like elite sort of domestic racing for sort of the best youth and junior athletes to compete at. So yeah, a lot of the girls there are, off competing in European Cups, World Cups. So they are sort of the best in the country. And I was looking around thinking, this is mad. Like, there's no way that I should be standing on a start line with these girls. But yeah, you do kind of actually do a few races and you think, no, you know what, I deserve to stand here as much as anyone else, and I might not be finishing at the top of these fields, but, I'm learning from these races, I'm contributing to there being sort of a, at the moment, I think in British Triathlon, we're kind of really growing a good depth of, both male and female sort of athletes, so it's really nice to be a part of that kind of increase in talent. But yeah, definitely still get that imposter syndrome. I think the worst one for me this year, I went over to race in France for a team, and that was something that kind of, when I first started, I remember hearing about people going to race in the French Grand Prix and being like, wow, that's so cool. And then I was there this year and I was like, no, hang on a second, this is crazy. Like, I don't feel like I should be racing here, but I was there and, helped the team do well. So I think it's just putting yourself in those slightly uncomfortable situations to almost prove to yourself, no, I've put in the hard work, I do deserve to be here. And yeah, so it's quite exciting.
Yeah, and I think, look, the back end of this season has proved you definitely do deserve to be on those start lines. I want to talk through the back end of this season, because would you say that this couple of months have really been your breakthrough couple of months?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I think, for a little while I felt like I was working really hard and not quite seeing the results that I wanted. When I first came into triathlon, albeit I was doing a lot smaller races, but, felt like I had a relative amount of kind of good results. And then obviously you go, okay, well, I'm going to challenge myself a bit more, and the fields are a lot more competitive. And it was quite hard to kind of almost feel like you were going backwards, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was kind of a year where I sort of felt like I was working hard, not getting the results, putting quite a lot of pressure on myself. Had quite went out to Hamburg in July of this year to race in the age group World Sprint Championships. So in triathlon, you kind of have your age group racing, which is the best people sort of in 5-year age gaps, and then above that you have your kind of elite racing. So I'd gone out with kind of an aim that I know I wanted to try and podium in my age group, and basically just let the pressure of the event and the build up get the better of me, and ended up finishing right down the field, not because physically I couldn't do it, but just because mentally I was like, I just kind of was like, I'm not good enough to be here, I don't deserve it. So to then have a couple of weeks off, reset, and come back at the end of the season and sort of win, or retain my title in the British Aquathlon champs, and then go on to win in Barcelona in only my second middle distance, was a real kind of turning point for me, and a bit of I just need to have some self-belief. I need to trust my coach, I need to trust the process, and just kind of be patient with it, and that those kind of good results will follow that.
Trust the process is something that you hear a lot, right? But how important is that from somebody that, like you say, maybe went through a little bit of a lull, and a little bit of not believing in themselves as much as maybe they should in their own abilities, like you say, earlier on in the season, to then get into where we are now. That trust in the process, it's so important, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think I've definitely been guilty, and I think a lot of age group athletes like myself that are working full time, triathlon isn't their job. It can be really tempting to either, I think, do a little bit too much training. Actually you're working and then you're trying to squeeze in the same training that maybe some of the elite athletes are, but you're not getting the rest, or that actually you're just kind of expecting these results to kind of come really quickly because you're comparing yourself to people that have been doing the sport for 6-7 years. I think it's a really tricky thing that you kind of almost have to learn as you're going. And I've actually only just recently started working a bit closer with my coach, so I think that's going to really help, because I'm hoping he's going to make me focus on the harder things. So for me, like my bike, if you gave me a choice of you can go out and do a run session or a bike session, hands down I'd always choose a run session. But I know that my run is relatively strong, and actually if I want to get better I need to spend the time working on my bike, or working on the technical side of things. You can't always just be smashing out the hard sessions. Sometimes you have to strip it back, take things a bit easier, and build it back up. So it's taken me a little while to kind of come around to being able to trust someone else to help you get to those goals. But I'm really excited to see over the next year how that change is going to look in terms of race results.
I really want to talk about the 70.3 over in Spain. I think the best way to do this is hit me with a little race report, Chloe. Talk me through kind of the race from start to when you took that tape.
Oh gosh, yeah. It's still, I mean, obviously the race itself was only 3 and a bit weeks ago.
Crazy.
So yeah, I still kind of get goosebumps thinking about it. It was such an amazing experience. I actually ended it a year ago. Was kind of just like, do you know what? Fancy a little holiday at the end of next year. Also had been really wanting to do an Ironman event, but I'd seen loads of people and I was like, they look so cool. So sort of tied the two and was like, hey, Barcelona's the end of the year, let's enter it. But yeah, the swim start, if anyone listening has done Barcelona, the guy on the microphone kind of talking about just, a really nice reflection of what's brought everyone there as the sun is rising over the beach, you're looking out to the sea. Like, I was tearing up so much, it got me really emotional. And then the swim itself was really tough. We had we were swimming head on into a current, so it felt like you were working really hard, and then the times just didn't show that at all. So that was actually quite tough. Then had a lot of fun kind of running up the beach into the first transition, was sort of cheering on with the crowds. And then had to go, okay, right, come on, Chloe, you still got a long way to go, focused. Don't let yourself enjoy anything too much yet. And then the bike was what I was most nervous for. I hadn't really raced anything over sort of like 20k all year. So to then jump up to racing 90k was a bit of an unknown. But yeah, it was a stunning course along the coast, nice and flat, a few technical little bits. And I just kept expecting the girls to come flying past me. I was on my road bike with my clip-on aero bars, and I knew there'd be girls that were really strong on the bike, on their time trial, sort of really quick bikes, and it just didn't happen. And I got to 50k, and I was still, I think I was still in sort of, third or fourth at that point, and I was like, okay, this is going really well. Got to the end of the bike in just over 2.5 hours, which I was chuffed with, and then was like, right, okay, the run. This is the bit that I know I can do. First 5k was great. Managed to overtake the leading lady and sort of looked round at this bike that said first woman and like asked the guy and sort of said, Am I actually in first? And he was like, yes, come on, go. And I was like, okay, we've still got 16k to go here. Someone will come past me. Had a real rough patch from sort of about 7k through to 16, 17k. Just cramped up really bad. Hadn't taken enough salts on, probably hadn't done the training, probably overbiked a little bit. It was really hot for October in Spain. It was like 27, 28 degrees. And was sort of thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to walk at some point. But just kept going, one foot in front of the other, keep going. Loads of people were cheering my name. But honestly, I was just in such a hole. I was kind of like, please be quiet, just let me run. So yeah, I wish I could have enjoyed the run more. But yeah, I feel like anyone who's done a 70.3 will know that that second half of the run is really just survival mode. And then, yeah, I don't think I kind of had really let myself sort of believe about winning until I got into the final K. And I was like, okay, 1k to go. I'm still in first here. Could actually happen. And then, to turn the corner down that red carpet and hear them say, announcing my name as coming in first overall, that was when I kind of just let all of that emotion hit and just really enjoyed that, kind of 100 meters down there, because I thought, what, this is probably not going to happen again anytime soon. I mean, hopefully it will in the future, but I was like, I'm going to soak all of this up because it's been a while since I've taken a tape. Actually, that would have been my second tape at a triathlon, having taken it in my first one that I won in Wales, and then I hadn't taken a tape since, so it's quite special. So yeah, just an overall amazing experience, and definitely left me excited to do some more middle distance in the future.
Going into that, was that a realistic goal? Was that something you were thinking about, or what was kind of the thought process on the start line?
Absolutely not. Goal one was actually to finish under 5 hours. That was my kind of, I thought, okay, if I can string together a solid performance, I can break 5 hours. And then sort of next goal was, okay, I'd love to get a podium in my age group. Because I'd seen a few of my friends with the little wooden Ironman trophies, and I was like, I really want one of them for my bedroom. So let's
Got a bigger one now.
Yeah, let's try and podium in my age group. But to win it overall had never even crossed my mind. Like, definitely wasn't expected going into the race at all, which I think makes it even nicer sometimes.
This has got to have given you so much confidence going into next season.
Yeah, it's a mix. I think it's definitely given me confidence, and I think shown me that middle distance is probably where I want to turn my attention to, kind of, longer term. But also I feel like it's, like I say, put a bit of more of that pressure on again. So I just need to work through with me and my coach on making sure I manage that. I think the temptation would have been to jump straight into wanting to do more middle distance next year and maybe chase trying to get like a professional license, but I don't have a time trial bike yet. Again, they're not cheap, so it's going to take a little bit of saving up to get one of those. And actually, I think I've got some unfinished business with sort of the sprint and draft legal racing. So I probably want to focus on that next year, tick off a few more of those sort of goals that I've got, and then, give myself another year before I kind of properly step up. But I think, yeah, it's made me realise that I think longer term, I would absolutely love to try and get my professional license. And whether that happens or not, I think trying to go for it, is kind of what they say, like, you're still going to tick off a whole lot of amazing things. But yeah, it's got me very excited to see where triathlon could go.
And we're living in a world now with a British female Ironman world champ, which is incredible that it happened only like a couple of weeks ago. Seeing triathlon go from strength to strength and seeing the female side of the field getting stronger and stronger and stronger and getting more and more attention. Being in that, does that feel something that's quite special?
Yeah, we're so lucky at the moment that there's so many inspirational women sort of leading the way in the world of kind of middle distance and Ironman, and in the sprint world as well. You know, the British girls are absolutely smashing it, with sort of Beth Potter having just won the World Series as well. So, you know, that is amazing to have all of these women at the top sort of driving the quality and giving us something to sort of aim for. And I think not just as well at the elite level, you know, in an age group level, there's some incredibly talented women that I'm lucky enough to race against who are all also working full time and doing amazing things. So it's, you know, a sort of a real nice sort of depth of talent that we're seeing. And I think to see other women doing it with jobs, with kids, you know, starting in, you know, their kind of, you know, 40s and getting into it, you know, it's amazing to have sort of, there seems to be a lot of breaking down of some of the barriers that might have been there before. So yeah, definitely something that I want to be a part of.